Some viewers may find the following video disturbing. Viewer discretion is advised.
Hey everyone, welcome back to Board Games Unlocked, and Brett and I are doing a no-run-through review for the newest expansion of Wingspan Asia. This has been a long time coming, because I know that they had announced this a while back.
And then Asia shut down.
And then Asia shut down, yeah, and then they had to just push it off. But to be honest, like, I didn't think too much of this expansion whenever it was announced, because I was like, this is going to be more birds. Mm-hmm. It was to be expected whenever they did the Europe expansion, then Oceania, then this one. Mm-hmm. And based off what I know of the size of the nesting box, it's big enough to house additional expansion. So I think they got, 4 more continents to do?
Mars.
they're going to go sci-fi. But the biggest difference of what this expansion brings, I mean, of course, it brings in new birds, relatively similar mechanisms that you've seen of round end stuff, and so there's nothing really special about that. Mm-hmm. The biggest thing to talk about is its duet mode, which is a new way to play like the standalone game of 1 to 2 player, and it's flock mode, but we're not going to talk about the flock mode because I don't ever want to play Wingspan with 6 to 7 people, and so I haven't.
Flock mode is just the same with Asian birds thrown in.
No, it adds in this.
Okay.
It does add in something of a player setup, but yeah, it's like look at the setup for flock mode. Like, you have the 4 players, and then you have this whole other weird thing for the 3 other players, of where it includes, like, obviously you have the board and stuff, but then you have like a dial too. Okay. I didn't look too much into it because I was like, absolutely not. I would never play Wingspan with 6 to 7 people because you barely interact with each other.
Yeah.
I guess you can with like more once between turns, but that would be like, just play the bird, man. Or
please, somebody lay eggs. I've got to do that when someone lays an egg.
Yeah, exactly. So this is going to be primarily focused on, I guess, Asia and the duet mode. Mm-hmm. So, Brett, what did you think of the duet mode?
Fine.
Yeah.
It's not a game that I particularly enjoy base, but so having this extra complication and extra stuff to consider, for me, just kind of slowed it down slightly. Not a lot, but one more thing to think about. Do I want to play this bird here? Mm-hmm. What nest type is it? What am I going to gain? It could be somebody does a lot of math in their head and it really slows it down. Yeah. But I didn't.
Especially because,
and that's why I didn't win.
It was still really close in the last game we just played, by 10-point swing. So the duet mode adds in this like area control board
It's not really a control.
Well, it is because you take... I know you're right. It is not area control. It is a...
in terms of congruent areas.
Right.
Strategic locations.
Yeah. I guess area control is the wrong phrasing. So everyone has these yin-yang tokens. And what birds you play, where you play them, affects where you can place these tokens. And the endgame scoring objectives are about those tokens. Like the ones that we had this game was most of those tokens on food areas, then total on the map, and then tokens not on the edge of the map, and then fewest on bonus spaces.
And paths that you have connected.
At the end of the game, yes, your largest contiguous grouping or connected line is also a point.
So that replaces the end round scoring mechanism from the other game, but everything else still scores the same.
Exactly, yeah. So one thing I will say, I mean, I think I like the fact that the duet mode, I think it's fun that it exists, and I'm glad it didn't overly complicate. Like, they didn't do some weird, like, oh, well, now these birds do this, where it's like, they like have to affect, 800 birds. Yeah. It's just, I played this gray wagtail here. And because of that, it has that kind of nest, and I can take that. Mm-hmm. It adds some kind of extra strategy. Yeah.
Which I guess is fine with a 2-player. Mm-hmm. It would overly complicate larger
Play
numbers.
This in flock mode. No.
So, good decision to not allow more people, because theoretically there's no reason more people couldn't do it. It's just, it would really slow down turns.
Well, except the fact that, like, if someone was able to get all of their spots filled, there's not enough room.
Well, on this board, they would have to.
Oh yeah, make it
redesign it for more people.
Make a board for the amount of people. Yes,
but that would not be fun for most people.
That would be miserable. So it's fine as a 2-player game, especially because the scoring objectives I think also fit well, where it's just kind of like, oh, okay, either you have the most or I have the most.
Yeah.
I mean, because in terms of, the end of round goals, you got 2 more points than I did. And then the duet tokens even really wasn't that big of a swing. It was, I got 9 and you had 4.
Right.
So it does have that extra element of thinking of like, okay, I'm going to go here because that's going to connect all those, and therefore I'm foregoing this end of round objective.
Yeah.
And I hope that pans out.
Yeah.
Overall, I never thought that there was a problem with the 2-player game of Wingspan anyway.
No.
Like,
This just adds another layer
it does.
of complexity to consider. That it works well for people who really strategize and really enjoy this game.
Yeah.
I think it's great
You know what's weird?
for those people.
I almost feel like that the duet mode is mismarketed. Because Wingspan is clearly over 1 million copies sold.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I think on the Dice Tower has done, like, they did Best Publisher. Like top, like the best publishers, and people were voting on it.
Mm-hmm.
It was like a bracket tiering tournament thing. I think Stonemeyer won.
Okay.
Probably largely because of Wingspan. It's just so accessible. Like,
Yeah.
it's
And interesting.
It's interesting, especially if you do take the time to read the bird facts. Like, I love the fact that they are adding different cultural birds.
Yeah.
And I would read a few. Like, there was one that you played. I'm like, hey, I want to read that fact because that's a sexy bird. But it's meant, like, this is a game that you could play with almost anybody.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, there's a few things where it's like, oh, okay, I'm going to play over here, and then you have to go down the trail. But overall, it's just, hey, draw 2 cards and tuck them behind a bird.
Yeah. Yeah. Each individual rule is easy, and almost anybody could play it, and a lot of people obviously enjoy it well.
Yeah, very much love it. So then it's like, oh, okay, well, then they have this extra board of... I feel like this might be a little much for most people who are wanting to play Wingspan. Who, like, I could probably, through a couple plays, teach Wingspan to my mom. Yeah. And there have been very few games, like Horrified and Quacks have been the 2 that have worked. And even Horrified, I'm like, no, just move. But she was able to get Quacks and Horrified. Right. I'm pretty sure I could teach Wingspan.
Yeah.
After a few tries.
Yeah. After a couple of rounds, it's pretty easy. It just flows.
But I think this would be too much.
As an intro, I would say yeah.
Yeah.
Either you're a board gamer and you're looking for an extra challenge, and you find yourself in 1 or 2. Do you know offhand what the solo mode does?
I don't.
Okay.
That's something I kind of want to find out, just because I think the solo mode for regular Wingspan is pretty good. Like, it's not like amazing. I'm not screaming it from the mountaintops. But it's gonna be in the Automa book. But it does say, oh hey, there's a 1 to 2 player standalone. So I'm assuming that it also affects this, and I'll probably give that a shot.
Okay. But for 2 people wanting to strategize, a married couple or good friends or people living in the same area,
yeah,
it's solid. It's the same concept. It's not overly complicated.
Right.
It's another layer of thinking about it that only 2 people, a simple game, might go too quickly. That they can consider and strategize over.
Yeah. Well, here's the other thing: is all the birds and stuff, at least all the ones that we saw, and there's a decent amount that's added. Not too much. Like the Oceania one was like, here's a new deck, and you're like, oh my god, this doesn't add like a bunch of birds, but none of them seem to actually mess with this, which I like because you can just get this expansion, take these birds, toss them into the...
Yeah, there's nothing different about them, not even nectar.
No.
On any of them.
No.
They're just all the standard birds.
Yeah, well, nectars were wild, weren't they? And I think some birds specifically required it.
Right.
Bird looks
That's what I mean.
Cool.
But
yes.
It's a standalone expansion to the base game.
Yes.
Compatible with any of the other expansions.
Exactly. So, but then, like in the Oceania expansion and the Europe, they added unique endgame scoring tiles because that was a new way. Yeah. But they didn't do that here. Like it's not like you have one side of the endgame scoring where it's like, hey, it's for the duet mode, and the other side is not.
It's true.
All of these are only for the duet, so you're still limited you still have to deal with the same endgame scoring unless you are playing 1 or 2 players.
True, but since the bird cards don't add anything new, they're fully compatible with the old in-game rules.
The birds are, yes. Yeah, you're just not getting anything new of the endgame scoring.
Yeah, round scoring, yeah.
And then the endgame goals, like the goal cards, those are also not related to the duet mode.
Right.
So it does
fit
just
right in.
seem like that they're like, hey, these are the duet scoring, but everything else is compatible with the other expansions.
Yeah.
And it does have rules in there if you're adding in the other expansions of how that's tweaked. But yeah, other than that, it's a new expansion to Wingspan. Again, kind of like other expansions. If you don't like the base game, I really don't think you'll like duet mode.
No. Here's more to not like.
Exactly.
But
Yeah.
since so many people do, here's a new fun wrinkle. Plus, I assume it's cheaper than the base game because it is its own individual game. It is fully playable.
That is true.
As its own box.
You're right. I think it was like $30 or $40.
Okay. So it might be something people could try out, see how they like it,
That's a good point. Yeah.
and then go, yeah, let's get
Everything else. Yeah.
$375 of birds.
Yeah, let's get the nesting box. Yeah. So yeah, that's a good point. I forgot it. Yeah, we did just like open the box and it's like, hey, here's the 2 boards. Here's everything you need to play.
Yeah.
Because
Unlike,
you don't even have to do the duet mode.
right.
Because it teaches you, the rules specifically teach you how to play without the duet mode. Then there's a separate section. It's like, oh, end your game scoring. Now here's the duet section.
Yeah.
And they do also include like almost like a setup, step-by-step kind of like walk you through the duet mode.
Cool.
So for player A and player B. So that's there. I don't think it's needed, but maybe that's just me.
Well, we played the base game so many times.
Exactly. Yeah.
It isn't.
But yeah, Asian birds are cool. They look cool.
Okay.
I like them. They're neat. Throw them in. That's just what I'm gonna do. I don't foresee myself playing duet mode. Like again, like I
can see
find and it's weird coming from me because normally I like simpler games to have more elements of strategy.
Right.
But I think Wingspan is that sweet spot. There is enough strategy of what you're doing ahead because the end game goals are already there, and you can play the friendlier game of like, you know, I get the most points, but you still get some points, or you can play the most or whoever has the most gets all the points or none. I didn't find this appealing. Like it was an extra layer, but I was just kind of like, it was an extra layer, but still it was so simple that it didn't require any extra thought. It was just another thing.
Gotcha.
So I'm like, well, I guess I'm just gonna take all the birds and the goal cards and
Yeah, there's so many spaces available that I didn't feel like there was any reason to say, I'm going to go here because I'm afraid you might.
I didn't ever think that either, but there was times where I played a bird because I wanted its ability, and so I played like the white-headed duck, for example, which is in the aqua or the wetlands area, and I'm like, oh, cool. So I do its ability, and I look over, and I'm like, I don't have that nest. I didn't pay a fish. Oh, I actually can't go anywhere. Huh. Okay, well, I guess I'll go there.
Did you really hit that?
Yeah, there were times where like I just didn't. That's what. One of the times I went there was because I actually couldn't go anywhere.
Oh, I did not notice that. Interesting.
But it wasn't ever something that I was like methodically like, man, because there's no way to keep track. There's no way for me to know what I'm taking from you.
For me, it was always an afterthought.
Yes.
I always played the bird, and then what can I do with this?
Exactly. Yes, that's exactly where I was, and because of that, it's just actually more annoying than something that's like, oh man, okay, so if he does this, then I need, okay, so I need to go there, and then yada yada yada. It's like no, it's not there.
Gotcha.
But with that being said, on a scale of 1 to 10, what would you give the Wingspan Asia expansion?
Considering as an expansion and a separate standalone game,
Yeah.
because I really can't find a way to separate those, I'm going to go with 7,
Okay.
but it kind of feels like I'm cheating a little bit, almost 7.5.
Okay.
8 feels like too much, but 7 feels like it's a little bit better than that.
Interesting. I'm actually kind of lower.
Okay.
Yeah, I think I'm at a 6 of, like, I don't think the duet mode's bad.
Right.
But I don't think, even though it's like you said, hey, this is a trial, like, standalone game, you can just buy this and play regular Wingspan. That's cool, but you're getting less content.
Yep.
Like, pay $10 more and you can get a full massive game of Wingspan. But then if you want the duet mode, you have this weird play up half of a yin yang on it, and then you get very little content. Like, you're not actually getting any extra end game goals. You are getting more cards, and that's why it's not like a 3 or a 4. It's because it's like, well, it's still Wingspan. The birds are still cool. The end game goals are still cool. The game still plays the exact same.
Yep.
But the unique thing of this expansion is just kind of whatever. So that's kind of, I'm like, okay, yeah, sure.
Gotcha.
6 out of 10. Like, if you love Wingspan, definitely get it.
Yeah.
Give the duet mode a try. Maybe you'll love it. But flock mode is just wasted cardboard for those pieces, because that'll never happen. So yeah, I think it's still a slightly above average expansion because it's still Wingspan.
Yep.
But it's not like amazing. I would honestly say get Oceania and Europe first.
Gotcha.
Because I like the nectar of Oceania. In Europe,
I think it is.
Or Europe was just...
Europe is just more birds.
It was just so much. It was just basically way more content.
Yeah.
So I would go Europe, Oceania, then this one.
Okay.
But that's it, everyone. That's our thoughts on Wingspan Asia. Let us know what you think of the expansion in the comments below. Other than that, like, comment, share, and subscribe, and have a wonderful whatever time of day it is for you. Hey everyone, thank you for watching, and I really hope that you enjoyed the video. If you would like to see more of my content, go ahead and click that subscribe button and the bell to be notified whenever I upload any new content. If you feel like supporting the channel, you can go ahead and click that Patreon link to be taken to my Patreon, and any help is truly appreciated. Other than that, stick around for any other run-throughs or reviews or cool top 10s or whatever I feel like putting on. Other than that, like, comment, share, and subscribe, and have a wonderful whatever time of day it is for you.